Morning, all. All right, so we have 9 games and a postponement to talk about. We'll get to the postponement first. So apparently, LA not able to get out of Colorado after their game, and due to a snowstorm, so the LA St. Louis game for tonight has been postponed till a later date. I think we've still got other games that have been postponed that haven't been made up yet. But hey, the NHL might just be delaying on that because they've got those days in May that they know that they're able to use for regular season games if they have to. So they just want to make sure, delay it. I would think probably delay it as late as possible so they don't have to delay anything else, right? So we've got 9 games tonight. We'll start things off with 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. We get the first game today, which is Nashville and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Nashville's 11-16-1. They have lost all 5 games against Tampa. Tampa's 19-5-2. Power plays, 19.6% for Nashville, 28.9% for Tampa. Penalty kill, that's where Nashville hurts, 67%. Yep, 67%. 86.7% for the Tampa Bay Lightning. When we look at goals scored and goals allowed, Nashville scoring 2.32 goals per game, allowing 3.43. And on the Tampa side, they're scoring 3.73 per game, and they're allowing 2.27. If we look at goals by period, Nashville likes the third period. They score 14 in the first, 15 in the second, 34 in the third. If they start scoring in every period like they do in the third, they won't have to worry about comebacks. For Tampa, they've scored 29 in the first, 35 in the second, and 30 in the third. So they've been consistent throughout. Then 3 hours later, starting at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, we have the Washington Capitals and the Buffalo Sabres. One of 5 games starting at 4 o'clock Pacific. So I'm wearing Buffalo because why not? I want to be an optimist. They've lost 10 in a row. They have to win one sooner or later. If you're saying later, I don't have a way to answer that. Washington 17-6-4. They've won 4 out of 5 against Buffalo this year. Buffalo 6-16-4, and they usually play Washington close. So it's normally close games. Washington 26.9% on the power play, a little bit below Buffalo 27.1%. I know they haven't scored in the last couple of games on the power play. Buffalo hasn't scored in the last couple of games on the power play. On the penalty kill, Buffalo's behind Washington there, 79.7% for them. The Capitals have an 81.4% on their penalty kill. So a slight favorite for the Capitals in terms of special teams. Goals scored and allowed, there's a big difference here. 3.41 goals per game for Washington, 3.15 against, whereas Buffalo 2.15 for, 3.31 against. So their goals against isn't great, but it's just they're not scoring. So there are other teams that goals against is similar, like Philadelphia, for instance. They're about the same as Philadelphia, but that goals for is just not there. Speaking of Philadelphia, 4 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific, or 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'll get there. It's the time change. We'll just blame the time change. Philadelphia and against the Rangers. Philadelphia's 13-9-3. Both teams have won a game in this series. The Rangers are 11-12-3 on the season. Power plays, Philadelphia favored there, 19.5% to 14.6% for the Rangers. That number should get better with Panarin back. Penalty kill favors the Rangers, 87.1% to 73.1% for the Flyers. Goals for and against, for Philadelphia 3.28, against 3.24. On the Rangers side, they're scoring 2.73 goals per game. They're allowing 2.69. So their goals against is actually pretty good. Their goals for isn't. So that's the issue there for New York. Again, with Panarin back, that should improve. Goals per period, Philadelphia, 22 in the first, 27 in the second, 31 in the third. The Rangers, 20 in the first, 28 in the second, 22 in the third. I didn't mention the goals per period in Washington Buffalo. Washington, 27 in the first, 40 in the second, 23 in the third. And in Buffalo's case, 14 in the first, 22 in the second, 20 in the third. So, yeah, it is interesting to see which period teams are best in. In Washington's case, it's clearly the second period. In this Philadelphia Rangers game, Philadelphia's best in the third, and the Rangers score the majority of their goals in the second period. So there you go. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. We will also see Chicago in against Florida. Florida's won all 3 meetings with Chicago. Again, if the Hawks are going to make the playoffs, they need to beat the teams above them, because if they lose these games, they allow the teams beneath them to start making up some ground. 14, 10, and 5 is the record now for Chicago. Florida's won all 3 matchups between these teams. Florida's 18, 5, and 4. Power plays favor Chicago. They have a 29.6% on their power play. Florida, 25.6%. Penalty kill, both of them below 80% on this. Chicago, 74.4%. Florida, 78.8%. So both of them, their penalty kills are low, but their power plays are good. Goals for and against, 4. Exactly 3 for Chicago. Against, 3.1. Florida, 4. 3.41. Against, 2.81. Goals per period, 21 in the first for Chicago, and then 30 in the second, 32 in the third. Florida, similar in that they don't score a lot in the first either. They've got 19 first period goals, and then 36 in the second and 33 in the third. So that's how you end up being a team known for having to have comebacks regularly, because they score in the second and third period, not so much in the first. And then also 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, we got the Boston Bruins in against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Boston's 14, 7, and 4. They won both meetings with Pittsburgh so far this year, and they need this one now. It feels like the bottom could fall out a little bit for Boston here. Pittsburgh 17, 9, and 2. Power plays favors Boston, 23.9%. Pittsburgh 18.4%. I will never understand why Pittsburgh's power play isn't better when you look at the players they can put out there. Penalty kill, Boston much better there as well, 89.4% to 75% for Pittsburgh. Goals for and against, 4. Boston's only scoring 2.72 goals per game. That is a little bit less than the New York Rangers. They're allowing 2.32. So that's your difference maker right there. Their defensive numbers are about the same as Tampa's. On the Pittsburgh front, they're scoring 3.19 per game. They're allowing 2.93. So these teams play very different style. We'll see which style wins. Boston goals per period, 16 in the first, 23 in the second, 26 in the third. Pittsburgh's very consistent, 26 in the first, 27 in the second, 29 in the third. So pretty consistent. They've had their share of comeback wins as well, though. So we'll see how it goes tonight. And then the last game, starting at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, is Vancouver in against Ottawa. Be very, very wary of the Ottawa Senators. Trust me. Vancouver 13, 16, and 2. The Senators 10, 20, and 1. And of course, Vancouver won all 3 games in convincing fashion in Vancouver. I'm sure Ottawa remembers that, and they're going to try to answer that tonight. I don't know who's going to start in that. I don't know. Do you go with Decord again? Is Murray going to be good to go? I haven't seen yet how that's going to work out, but it should be interesting. Power plays, that favors Vancouver, 20.6% for Vancouver, which is low compared to what was expected. And for Ottawa, 15.5%, which, while that number's low, better than last year. Penalty kill favors Vancouver as well, 80.2% for the penalty kill, and Ottawa 74%. Goals for and against, Vancouver scoring 2.71 goals per game. They're allowing 3.23. That has come down a lot over the last few weeks. For Ottawa, they're scoring 2.61 goals per game, so they're well above Buffalo. And they're allowing 4, which is also well above Buffalo. So if they could ever tighten up that defensive side of things and get the goaltending in order, things would be much, much better, much sooner for Ottawa. Goals per period, 28 in the first for Vancouver, 24 in the second, 32 in the third. So second period is getting better. I remember early in the season, the second period was bad for them. And in terms of Ottawa, they score 27 in the first, 29 in the second, 23 in the third. Right, so 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, we then see Winnipeg at home against Montreal. So yeah, there's a lot of Canadian teams in action tonight, and this one should be interesting. Winnipeg 17, 8, and 2. They now have a chance, while Toronto's idle, to catch them. But they have to beat Montreal, who are 12, 8, and 7. Should be smarting a bit from their last couple of games against Calgary. Winnipeg's won all 3 meetings between these teams this year. 21.3% on the power play for Montreal. Not too shabby considering where it's been for a couple of years. Power play for Winnipeg, 25%. Penalty kill, Montreal needs to work on that, but so does Winnipeg. 77.5% for Montreal, 77.6% for Winnipeg. Goals for and against, goals for Montreal, 3.19. Goals against, 2.63. Not too shabby. That's like better than the Rangers. It's better than Pittsburgh, better than Florida. Just saying, we talk a lot about the North. Some teams can keep the puck out of their net. For Winnipeg, 3.37 goals per game, 2.85 goals against per game. Goals per period, 24 in the first for Montreal, 37 in the second, and then 25 in the third. They like the second period. They love the long change, I guess. Winnipeg, 23 goals in the first, 31 goals in the second, and 32 goals in the third. And then an hour later at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. These games are now really nicely spaced out with that game being postponed as well. It just makes my night just a little bit easier. So the Oilers are in against the Flames. The Oilers 18-12 on the season. They've won 3 out of 4 against the Flames, who are now 13-12-3. This is the proving ground. This is where we see whether or not Daryl Sutter has made as much of a difference as we already kind of figure he will. He does make teams better defensively. So for power plays, that favors Edmonton. No surprise there. 26.5% for them, 20.8% for Calgary. On the penalty killing side, the Oilers are actually low, especially compared to last year, 75.6%, whereas the Flames are at 80.7%. Goals for and against per game, 3.33 goals per game for the Oilers, 2.9 goals against. For Calgary, 2.68 goals per game, 2.89 against. So they'll be looking to bring one up and the other one down. Up to you guys to decide which one's which. Goals per period, 36 in the first for the Oilers, 33 in the second, 30 in the third. For Calgary, 22 in the first, 29 in the second, 23 in the third. So, yeah, I mean, Calgary could definitely use some more scoring and a little bit less against. We'll see how it goes for them. And then the last game of the night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. In light of St. Louis and LA being postponed, we now get San Jose and Vegas to have that undivided attention, which San Jose and Vegas very often demands anyways. 11-11-3 is the record now for San Jose. Vegas has won all 3 matchups. If San Jose wants to show, hey, we're serious, we're trying to make the playoffs, they're going to have to beat Vegas to get there. Vegas 18-6-1. Power plays, that actually favors San Jose at 19.5%. Power play for Vegas, a woeful 16.9%, but the penalty kill, that favors Vegas, 85.3%. San Jose's at 79.3%. Again, much like Edmonton last season, San Jose's penalty kill was excellent. I'm not sure what happened with San Jose. We'll see how that develops from here for the rest of the season. Goals for and against. Goals for San Jose, 2.84. They're allowing 3.52, which is right near the bottom of the league. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, they're scoring 3.32 goals per game. They're allowing 2.20, which I think is the best goal differential on the board other than the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then goals per period, 22 in the first for San Jose, 23 in the second, 25 in the third. On the Vegas side, 23 in the first, 23 in the second, 32 in the third. They really like the third period, and there you go. Let me know your thoughts and predictions in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.